Hello. So this is so interesting. I've never done this. I'm doing this instead of from my phone. I'm doing this from my computer today, and I've never done that. So I hope you guys can hear me, and it's not just my face, and it looks like my mouth's moving, but you can actually hear my voice. Um, so, anyways, there's an invite friends button. Interesting. Oh, that's so fascinating. Anyways, um, my name's Deb, for those of you guys who don't know me. I'm an intuitive, I like to call myself an intuitive guide, right? Intuitive guide, energy healer, coach. And I work with childhood patterns to help you clear your childhood patterns, patterns like abandonment, right? If you've ever been left by a parent, either they were working so much, or they divorced, or they passed away, or there was addiction in your family, that is one of my strong specialties. And I love helping people to actually clear that. So the impact, obviously, in your present day is just not attract people that don't show up for you, just like your parents didn't show up for you, and where you stop leaving yourself, which is very common and a big common thing we do, especially when we've had a parent that wasn't around or wasn't available to us. So in any case, I want to talk about, the name of this community is Living in Your Truth. And I want to talk today about lying, right? Because I know so many of us, it's such a common practice, right? That we're so used to just lying kind of being a way of life, and that just sort of being the standard norm. And as a truth seeker and as somebody who can feel a lie when someone's lying in my body, I want to set a new way, because there is other ways besides having to lie, right? To get out of things, or to, if you don't want to do something. But I want to plant some seeds. So a friend of mine, we were talking the other day about lying, right? And kind of the necessity of lying, right? Like why have we created a culture where lying is kind of the norm and lying is acceptable? Like why is that even part of our culture? And so she was talking to me about her husband, and how he basically, he gets invited to something every year, and instead of just saying, no, I'm not interested, like this isn't aligned for me, which is a really easy way not to have to lie, right? So it's a really, really easy way to get out of lying without having to lie. Just, this is not aligned for me, all right? This is not feeling right for me at this time. But she was saying that instead he makes up an excuse. So he continually keeps getting invited over and over and over again. He keeps getting invited to do the same thing because he hasn't made it clear that it's actually not something he really wants to do. And the thing about lying, so this is one perspective I want to give you to help you to kind of start looking at lying in a little bit of a different way, because especially with little white lies, we tend to think, no big deal, that, oh, what's the big deal to just tell a little white lie? But if you think about the fact that if you're lying to someone, right, and then especially if you're in some kind of relationship with them, right, even if you're not going to see them for a month, but you're going to see them, right, in some way you have to hold that lie in your body permanently. And think about that concept, right? So like literally, like every time you lie about something, so that you can cover up your lie, if it comes up in conversation again, you have to hold that lie in your body. And I don't know about you, but to me that feels really, really heavy. It's not a fun way to kind of go about life. And so I want to just encourage you to start to think about lying in a different way. The other thing about lying that's so awesome once you start to get clear about it is when you start to get clear about what you're a no to, and you actually put that out, you give clear directions to the universe. Don't send me this. This is what I want, right? So you start to really be specific with the universe and tell the universe, like, I want more of this, right? I want more, so this guy was getting speaking engagements that weren't working for him, right? Or that he wasn't interested in. So he could have said, this is not aligned for me. I'm actually looking for speaking engagements with this organization or with this type of topic, right? And that alone, that can be really, really powerful, because you're telling the universe, okay, I don't want this. Please send me more of this. So that in itself too is really, really awesome. And, I always call it, it's the patterns we pick up from childhood. That's kind of ways that we can carry around. We think we're, in our truth, but those are the ways many times we're carrying around, the lies we bought into, in our childhood to stay safe, to be loved, right? To be accepted by our parents. So like, say for instance, you bought into like this idea of perfectionism when you were growing up, right? Like everything has to be perfect. And if you're joining us, if you want to say hi, I'd love to meet you. And I love it because people just jump off when I acknowledge them. But anyways, feel so free to say hi if you join us. But the noticing, so one example, so say if you're growing up in a household of perfectionism, right, where like perfect was kind of bought into, right, and you're like, this is how life is. Many times, like if you feel that in your body, again, if you feel perfectionism in your body, that feels really heavy because our truth is that we're imperfect. We're perfectly imperfect. We're imperfectly perfect. We're perfectly imperfect. So our truth is that. So if you're buying into this idea that you have to be perfect, that's heavy, right? And that's something that you're carrying with you, over and over and over again in your environment. And especially too, it's like if you have to hold that space, right? I got to be perfect. I got to be perfect all the time, right? That's exhausting. I don't know about you. Like I used to have this as a pattern myself, and I don't know about you, but I'm like, perfection to me is just plain old exhausting. And so I just want to encourage you in all different kinds of ways, like as you're thinking about, as you're telling, as you go and you want to say no to something, right? And first of all, feel like why does no have to be a bad thing, right? So that's another way to kind of to look at this and to examine this, right? But why does no have to be bad? Like we're so conditioned to think, oh, someone said no to me. And how about this reframe? So reframe, I did this thing with my hands, but you couldn't see it. So how about this reframe of looking at the word no as clarity, right? Like, so, it's interesting, right? Because I'm doing these workshops around the country. And by the way, if you're in the Northern Florida area, I'm going to be in Jacksonville this weekend. So come out and join me. But, I'm doing these workshops, right? And I may make it look easy, right? I got a ton of workshops lined up and there's more coming next year. So there are going to be even more places and everything. And I know I may make this look easy, but let me tell you, like I have to submit a ton of requests and I get a ton of no's just putting myself out there, right? But I've shifted this to really look at this as like, awesome, like this person's a no, right? Because first of all, for me, the last thing that I want to do is go to like have someone say yes just because out of obligation or because they don't know how to say no. And me go all like travel somewhere, let's use Omaha for some reason. Omaha once it's coming up right now. So say like, someone says yes and I go all the way out to Omaha, right, to do this workshop and they don't. Actually, and I did have this happen in one city, it wasn't in Omaha. But, I had one place where they said yes, and they were in, and then something happened, I think, personally with the guy, but he didn't communicate it to me. But in any case, he had not promoted it at all. And I booked all my travel arrangements. Everything was all in place. And it would have been so much better had he just said, you know what, even if he agreed to it and then realized later, I can't do this or I'm not going to promote this, it would have been so much better if he would have come back to me and told his truth, right? Spoke his truth, which could have been something as simple as I'm going through a rough time right now and I know I committed to this, but we need to, I need to cancel this right now and we can revisit this at another time. So no doesn't have to be a bad thing. And I'm always like, if a studio owner comes back to me and says, no, this isn't a good fit for my studio, or this isn't the type of workshops I do, like, I'm always grateful because it's like, that gives me clarity. Like, I want to go to the places that are a hell yes, right? I want to be around the people that are a hell yes. And so whether it's a workshop, whether it's a party or, or getting together with a friend, if you're not a hell yes towards that, be very clear you're not a hell yes and say no, so, and if you joined us and you want to say hi, I would love to say hello. But basically it's very, very important. Just get clear on your yes, get clear on your no, and keep putting it out there so that the universe knows exactly what to bring you, right? And don't carry those lies in your body. I have a friend of mine who I love dearly, but one of her strong habits, one of her strong patterns is she doesn't know how to get out of things. And so she lies about getting out of things. And I finally had to kind of tell her, it wasn't the best way. I just didn't even know how to say this to her, but it's like, okay, like I'm very tuned into when people don't tell me the truth. So like, kind of just like, stop. Like, like you can tell, just be honest, right? I don't want to do this, or I committed and like, I'm tired, or I would rather be at home. And so I think, I think just in general, just to kind of sum this up, we need to start thinking and we need to start looking at lying as like, because you're carrying that in your body, right? And again, it goes back to like the small little white lies, and then the lies of when we don't know ourselves that well, or we've taken on truths that are not our own, and recognize, okay, so that's the heaviness that I'm carrying, and maybe I'm carrying it with me for decades, right? And that feels heavy. And you can start to clear those lies, right? You can start to release those lies in terms of patterns, right? Like if you bought into, this is the way that I have to do my life, right? Well, say for instance, you grew up in a family full of attorneys and you're like, this is how I have to do my life. That's really heavy if you're like if you're a creative person and you're like, I don't want to be an attorney anymore, but you bought into that, or that's the way that you make your money. That's really heavy to carry around for the rest of your life. So I would just encourage you to start to look at where you're saying yes when you mean no, and where when you want to get out of something, you lie about it instead of just being very clear about why you're a no. And like I said, it can go back to something as simple as, this is not aligned for me. I'm looking for more opportunities like this. You can just redirect it in the direction of what you're truly wanting, and just be embodied in your no, right? Like, I'm a no about this. And then, obviously too, in terms of your childhood patterns, like all those layers, like I always, describe in my classes, this like 300-pound costume that we are wearing, and we think we're wearing like a sheer bodysuit. we have this 300-pound costume on. And if you think about that, it's one of those things that's really heavy, right? So you can start to peel back these patterns, right? These things that you've bought into of how you do life that aren't truly true for you. So that's my little spiel for today. I want to encourage you. So like I said, if you're in Northern Florida this weekend, I'd love, love, love to meet with you. I'd love to connect with you. I'm in Jacksonville. Also, if you're not in any of the places that I'm visiting at this moment, I would still love to meet with you and to connect with you. I am doing, this is the first one this month, online energy clearings, right? So they're online group energy clearings. The first one is all about bringing in light. I know that this can be a challenging time of year, especially if you lost a loved one, especially if you've got a lot of depression or anxiety coming up. Let me support you. I would love, love, love to support you. So the first online energy clearing, group energy clearing workshop is next Saturday, and it's at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. Come join me. Let's bring in light together. Let me support you, right? Let me help you clear some of that anxiety and depression or grief or loneliness, whatever is up for you. Let me help you to clear that so you can go into the holiday and actually create some zhuzh is what I'm hearing. So in any case, I'd love to meet you, connect with you soon. Say hi in the blurb. If this lands for you, definitely feel free to comment below. Or if you have a question about anything that I said or anything that comes up around when you're trying to speak your truth and what you're struggling with around that. Thanks so much for watching. Much love. Sending you much love.